So okay, so I will in the future we will have 2 attempts, and I will warn you about any quizzes beforehand, because you have to switch on Italian. Okay, I think that's so far that is the only problem. So I hope everything will be okay from now on. And I have to warn you also, the future quizzes will be a bit more difficult, because all the questions are not so fact ridden, and they'll be application based also. Okay. So anyone wants to say anything before we go on? So we have studied about psychoanalysis, and some people will remove. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going. I'm looking at the numbers. Quite a number of people are removed from the system because of technical difficulties. I got a warning just now. Okay, so I hope they will able to join us soon. I will try to publish this class on YouTube as soon as possible, okay? Because I can see that there are some difficulties with joining this class with some people. So let us recap on what we had done previously before the term break, and we had gone through several slides on psychoanalysis. Okay, so it was founded by Sigmund Freud, and in psychoanalysis, he argued that our behavior is actually regulated by something that is in our unconscious, which is sexual desire. Who can tell me how many types of self do we have in one person? We have the unconscious self, right? Wherein our sexual desire resides, and which actually controls our behavior, in the sense that it is the impetus that gives what do you call that motivates us to do things. Yeah, but we cannot be motivated all the time by sexual desire, or else we cannot do anything. So we have to have other selves regulating our behavior. And who can name the 2 other selves other than the unconscious? Can somebody give me the names of the 2 other selves?
The ego and superego.
The what?
The ego and superego.
Yeah, the ego and the superego. Yes. So ego is actually our conscious, and then the superego is something that regulates us from outside, that is still in our head because we are conscious of it, and it has something to do with the father figure. It regulates our behavior in the sense that, like the father figure, because the father figure is someone fearful to the unconscious, and he, in Oedipus Rex, is someone fearful to the unconscious and the conscious mind, and so he regulates the behavior. In real life, the superego could be the law, religion, and so on. But we as Muslims don't believe that our religion, Islam, is actually a superego figure, because it is required in our religion to believe that we are structured in a way to follow our own religion. So there is no such thing as the unconscious, conscious, and superego in Islam. It's just consciousness. There's consciousness in us, and this consciousness follows our religion. Yeah? We're meant to be good people when we were born. Now, there are 2, ways of regulating our sexual behavior according to Freud. These ways are Oedipus complex and Electra complex. So this is just explanations about how we develop sexual desire, how we marry out people outside of our family. Because Freud believed that every family in this world has incestuous members that we would male and female would like to have would are in love with their mothers. Huh? So through psychoanalysis, we could figure out a way, or maybe psychoanalysis provides us with a way on how we, according to Freud, grow out of love of for our mother, grow out of love for her. So these are some of the ways that we learned. And then one argument in psychoanalysis is that this male sexual desire, because Freud talks about more about male sexual desire than female sexual desire. So for this male sexual desire is also transformed into a figurative figure, which is the phallus. Okay, so and then we also have the three ways wherein our unconscious escapes to our conscious mind. And can somebody name the three ways to me? How about you, Siti Hajara? Siti Hajara? Can you name the three ways wherein the unconscious seeps through the conscious mind? Yeah.
I'm not sure, madam.
Okay. Dream. Okay. What are the ways?
I'm not so sure.
No, I cannot really hear you clearly. It's okay. Maybe somebody else. How about you, Khadija? Can you mention the ways?
Is it the condensation dream and displacement dream?
That is for dreams, yes, one of the ways. Dreams, and then we have dreams are divided into two: condensation and displacement. And then we have the other two ways. What are the other two ways?
Parapraxis.
Parapraxis, yes, slips of tongue. The same thing as slips of tongue. When we say something but we meant something else, right? Okay, so that what we actually say could mean what we want to say. So we are saying what we actually want to say, but we think that it's inappropriate, so we say that it's a different thing that you wanted to say. So slips of tongue. So another way is through
jokes.
Through jokes. Okay, we may make jokes that hide our what do you call that, desire for somebody, and that desires mostly clouded with or mixed up together with violent feeling or hostile feelings towards another person. Okay, so this, according to Freud, is how our consciousness gets access to our unconscious mind. Okay, now we move on to feminism. Okay, wherein we will study a bit.
Doctor,
Yes.
I have a question. Could we say that Freud is, his thinking is kind of extreme? Because he could think of how we develop sexual desire in terms of the Oedipus complex as well as the Electra complex. Can we say that his thinking is extreme in that sense?
Yeah, in a way, because he is taking things to an extreme. There is no proof that a baby has actual sexual desire for his mother, because even Electra and Oedipus complex are both what do you call that? They're both mythological figures. That there are stories, and there are figures in stories or characters in stories. Okay, and going back to that, when you were asking about this question, I was thinking that maybe I should present the Islamic. I think we went through that also, right? The Islamic perception of psychoanalysis. Did we go through that? Yeah, I think we have in a way.
You shared the video, Doctor, on YouTube.
It's in the video. Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe I can tell you a bit about this. Um, I don't have to go through the slide because I have already, I know the slide. And this is, that there is this person who, you know, as Muslims, we all think that what Freud is presenting is something very un-Islamic. And that is very clear, right? You can see that he pays attention to sexual desire. He says that every person has sexual desires for their mother. And obviously there is something wrong with that. Now, there are, however, few people who dare to challenge Freud, because Freud's, what do you call that? Freud is one of the founders of psychoanalysis and psychology. Yeah? So, you know, very few psychologists dare to challenge Freud. Yeah? But there is this Muslim psychologist called Professor Malik Badri. He used to work at UIA in the psychology department, and he is now working in Turkey. Yeah? Because he has a grant there, and he's working at the university there. Now, he wrote a book a long time ago called The Dilemma of the Muslim Psychologist. Now, because Muslim psychologists, they look to Freud for answers, since he's the father of psychology. But to Malik Badri, Freud is not leading people to the right direction, obviously. And one of the things he quotes in his book is that he gave two examples of Muslim psychologists who follow Freud. And one of the Muslim psychologists said that his patient, who was a boy, little boy, kept scratching his anus. Yeah, and he said to the parents of this boy that the boy was undergoing something called anaphase. Anaphase, according to Freud, is one of the erotogenic zones that, and the anal is one of the anus, the place where you expel your waste, right? It's one place wherein you will get pleasure from. And then the other place is your mouth, and then another place is your private parts. Okay, so according to Freud, the boy is simply undergoing anal phase. But when the psychologist told this to Dr. Malik Badri and also to the parents of the boy, he found it very disturbing. Dr. Malik Badri found it very disturbing. And it turned out that the boy was not undergoing any anal phase. He was just, he just had some anal worms. That's why he was scratching his anus. So, you know, it could be that Freud's reading more into this episode than the episode really is, you know. And then in another incident, a Muslim psychologist also said, another Muslim psychologist, Mustafa Ziwa, he said that you know, when we develop religion, because religion acts as a superego to our unconscious mind and also to our conscious mind. It protects us. It tells us what to do and what to avoid from doing. So, according to Malik Badri, this is wrong, because our consciousness and our religion, our belief in our religion is not conditioned by any superego. You know, we're just born with the belief that there is Allah, there is a God. You know, it's inside of our minds. It is very difficult, isn't it, to teach that something exists when you cannot see it. But in a few researchers from Oxford University actually did a study many years ago in 1990s or something like that, 2000 or something like that. I read this somewhere in the newspaper. They studied children and whether the children can believe that there are things that do not exist, okay, in front of their eyes, whether they believe that these things exist, like the unicorn and the fairy tales and elves, and children do believe that things like this exist. So where does that come from? That ability to believe. So the ability to believe comes from something, according to Prophet and our fitra. It comes from our fitra. We are pre-programmed. We are programmed to believe in something that we cannot see. and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, obviously, but you say that religion is there because it's already programmed into our minds, not by our desire for or our need for a super ego. So these are the two Islamic responses. So, it's up to you whether you want to use psychoanalysis or not in your study. Because when we study European works, for example, some of them really experience this psychoanalysis thing, yeah? Because they are Westerners, they don't believe in God, so maybe they have incestuous feelings for their parents or something like that. Huh? So there is some work. There are some works that lend themselves to this kind of belief, but obviously, as a Muslim, if you are studying Muslim Islamic literature, then I think you should avoid from trying psychoanalysis, trying to apply psychoanalysis findings into our readings of certain characters' behavior. So that will be, I think, a mistake, because obviously psychoanalysis has certain things that are very controversial in it. Yeah. So anyone wants to ask anything? I hope I didn't go through very fast now, because some people complain they I'm going too fast. So I'm trying to comply with that. It's very hard to do it online also. So now we move on to feminism. Okay. I think I have to switch this off. Okay, let me see. Feminism. Okay, so I hope you can see it. Feminism. So feminism reflects concern with the silencing and marginalization of women in patriarchal culture, a culture organized in the favor of men. Unlike some of other approaches, feminism is an overtly political approach. Now we come across an approach, a literary criticism approach, that is very political in the sense that they want to change society. Approaches like psychoanalysis are not political because although they suggest certain things that are very controversial, they do not call for any kind of like revolution, okay, or new way of behaving in our society. But feminism requires that. It requires women especially to challenge the way they have been presented in literature. So the political dimension of feminist theory can be divided into two. The first is to invoke an awareness of the power imbalances enforced and supported by the inequalities and the binary oppositions which structure how we think and act in our world. And the second is to show how these differences between men and women evolved, operate, and most importantly, can be changed in order to create equality between men and women. So the first is to make us aware, become aware that there are power imbalances between men and women. Men have more power than women. So, and then the second objective is to change this and to create equality between men and women. So literature is also challenged by feminists as they say it propagates and popularizes men's perspective of life. As Judith correctly points out, literature is political and its politics is male. She argues that when we read the canon of what is currently considered classic American literature, we perforce identity as male. In recent decades, this tendency has changed in part due to efforts of feminist critics. So literature, according to feminists, is male because you see from many anthologies, most of the writers are men. They're not women. And then how women are also portrayed in this literature or in these literary writings written by the men can also be said to be biased. So feminists are looking into this. Feminist literary criticism developed in the late 20th century women's movement. This movement included the writings of Simone de Beauvoir, Kate Millett, and Betty Friedan, who examined the female self-constructed in literature by male authors to embody various male fears and anxieties. So, you know, and women who are portrayed in many literature, many literary writings, tend to be women who are mad, irrational. Yeah. So these critics they are saying that these women are very transgressive. That's how men view them, and the way I mean, red women in literary writings is just one way in which men try to rationalize the behaviors of certain women. They just call them mad or irrational. They saw literary texts as models and agents of power to enforce the male perspective of women. In her book, The Second Sex, de Beauvoir asked what is a woman and how is she constructed differently by men. The answer is she is constructed differently by men. She is different because she is constructed by men to be different. Okay, she's not. She's not very different from him. He's just shaped or molded into creatures that are different by men. So Kate Millett's Sexual Politics was the first widely read work of feminist literary criticism. Millett's focus was on the binary oppositions of gender as male slash female, culture slash biology. So culture here would be male and female would be biology. She reads literature as a record of male dominance. She argues that male writers distort women by associating them with male deviants. So I have gone through when I did my video, I have gone through all of these things. So I'm not really going to go through them in detail. So I just want to point out a few things, like the Norton Anthology of Literature, which tries to present female writings. This is how women have tried to, or maybe people have tried, men and women have tried to counteract the tendency to locate literature within men's writing. So they are unearthing women's literature that are previously unknown, especially in today's world. Some of the writers, even women writers, could be bestsellers, but because those who are controlling the publication of these anthologies are men, they tend to downplay the roles that these women writers had in society. So they didn't highlight them in their anthologies. But recently there is a movement to highlight more female writers. And then we have also one critic called Elaine Showalter, who said that there are 3 phases in women's writing. One is called feminine, wherein women wrote to imitate and to follow what men's ideas of them are. Like, for example, they are supposed to be good housewives, so women produce recipes, on recipes, or books on household. And then the feminist phase, wherein they challenge, where another group of women challenge the way females are represented. And then the female phase, wherein there is a rediscovery of female texts, with those written by women. Okay, so these are the people who write about feminism, and they are divided into Anglo-American and French feminism. Now, humanist feminism, I think I want to see also what you think about what we are looking at here. Okay, so Do I understand what feminism is? There are two types of feminism. Yeah, if you have seen my video, there are two types of feminism. The first is humanist feminism, and the second is what is called post-structuralist feminism. Okay? So, does anyone here know what humanist feminism is all about? Can somebody tell me? Did you see the slide? When we say the word humanist, it means that those people who believe in humanism believe there is something in us that tells us about this world, that shapes our knowledge about this world, right? So for the humanist feminism, they believe that there is something inherent in our creation, in the creation of females and males, that we are essentially, when we are females, we have attributes that males do not have. Males have their own attributes, females have their own attributes. So they believe in something called essentialism. Okay, essentialism is saying that there is something essential to us, something that is inborn within us. Okay, so even though these humanists believe that there is something inborn in us which shapes our gender, okay, they say that there is nothing wrong with being feminine. There's nothing wrong with it. With masculine traits. Okay, all of us have our own traits that are all positive. Okay, for example, women, they're not aggressive. Men are aggressive. So there is something good in being not aggressive, because when you are not aggressive, you can take care of your children. Yeah, you can be more loving, understanding to your children, and obviously do not support the idea of dependence, being dependent on men. Yeah? So they don't really support all of these gender stereotypes, but they say that there is something different there are differences between men and women. Okay, so qualities like gentle, sensitive to other feelings, home-oriented, are all positive qualities according to them. And also males, they have their own positive qualities also. So they don't believe that we are similar. But obviously, they believe that women are, what do you call that? Are not represented in a very positive light in literature. No? They are represented as being mad, irrational. Have you read Jane Eyre? Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte? Anyone here has read that book? Okay. If you have read that book, it is there is a woman figure who is mad, who is irrational, and the critics Sandra Gilbert and Susan Gobar actually wrote a very important work in literary criticism within this humanist feminist perspective, and it's called The Mad Woman in the Attic. Yeah, in that book is obviously addressed. The Mad Woman is obviously alludes to Bertha Mason and Jane Eyre, a novel, okay, by Charlotte Bronte. So they argue that Bertha Mason becomes mad because her husband neglects her and actually has no desire for her, is not in love with her. No? So he, he imprisons her inside their house, and she becomes mad as a result. So they're saying that women are portrayed negatively because of what men have done to women. There's nothing wrong with women. They have their own traits, but they are not presented in a very good way to the public, or to readers in works of literature. They also highlight that women also finds it hard to write because they don't have any organs. Okay, what this means is they're looking back at psychoanalysis, because psychoanalysis uses the male organ to signify power. So they're asking what female organs also signify power for women. And they say even though our language is biased, they still can find merit, or they still can rely on writings by women, okay, and men also, to look at in order to analyze the ways that women have been presented. Yeah. So they also say that women are discouraged from writing. Why do we have so few women writers? According to them, women have been discouraged from writing. You know the story of J.K. Rowling? There's a lot of noise coming from our house. I want to apologize for that. Okay, so do you know the story of J.K. Rowling? J.K. Rowling is the writer of Harry Potter, right? But when you look at her name, you tend to think that it's a male's name because it's J.K. Rowling, right? It sounded like a man's name. Okay, so there is a story behind that. Her name is Josephine Rowling, and she wanted to put her name on her first book on Harry Potter, but the publisher said that if she were to put her name on that book, no boy would buy the book because boys only want to buy books from male writers. So he suggested that she shorten her name to something like S.I. Stern. No, R.I. Stern. Okay. He's another very famous writer, and I don't remember the two initials of his first name, but it's Stern at the back. So J.K. Josephine Rowling, she went home and she said that she doesn't have a middle name. Unlike many English people, she doesn't have a middle name. So she made up one, and Kathleen is her mother's name. So that's how she ended up with J.K. Rowling. Sounded male. She wanted to sell her book, so she had to have a name that sounded like a male's name. Okay, so these are some of the problems that are faced by women writers. Yes, R.R. Stein. Yes, R.R. Stein. Obviously, Farah Fatiha knows R.R. Stein. Quite a famous writer on. He writes about supernatural events and beings and ghosts and so on. But he writes for the young people. Right? So his books are very entertaining. So so this has led to rediscovering the feminists. They want to rediscover what women have written and why a lot of women find it difficult to become writers. Yeah. So also the language itself is a problem for women because you may have you have words like spinster, for example, for unmarried women, which has a negative connotation, but you have bachelor for unmarried men, which has a positive connotation. You also have widow, black widow, but there's no black widower. And of course, when you conjure up words like doctor, people tend to think that it's the man, that the doctors have to be males. But when you have words like nurse, you think that they should be female. So language itself is positioned to what do you call that? Display women as being inferior in our society. Yeah? So yet they still study literary works, yeah, by women and try to discover other differences between men's writing and women's writing. This is what the humanist feminists do. They still try to uncover, even though they know that the language is biased against women. So they accept tenets of humanism and treat literature as representations of women's lives and experience. Yeah? And then we have post-structuralist feminism, where they want to challenge the binary oppositions. Because they said that everything is culturally constructed. We are the ones who say that women are supposed to be dependent, okay, on men, and men are independent. We are the ones who say that women are passive, men are active. We are the ones, society is the one that's saying women are easily hurt emotionally, men are not easily hurt emotionally, and so on. So they find these categories, its qualities to be very disruptive and very wrong. So they want to challenge them. So they look at how and with what consequences women is constructed as otherness, as non-being. How does that lead women, for example, to be demonized by society or something like that? So post-structuralist feminist is inspired by psychoanalysis idea that women is not all, that she constitutes lack. So post-structuralists believe in Freud's idea that women do constitute lack. They don't have the male power. So this is the phallus here. Because women is founded on lack, she cannot identify with the phallus, which is the male power, which represents male power. And women is at the point, women's position is at the outskirts of the symbolic, not governed by the center. So she can be inexpressible. She can be anything that she wants to be, according to the post-structuralists. So, okay, so they want to deconstruct this binary oppositions of men and women, and of all the other opposition, binary oppositions too. Because if you believe in one, man is superior to women, then you tend to equate men with masculine, women with feminine, men with good, women with evil, men with light, women with dark, men with positive, and women with negative. So all these binary oppositions go together. And post-structuralists, they want to deconstruct this binary opposition, because women can be both good and evil, can be both light and dark, can be both positive and negative. So that is what they want to do. So women, they say, can challenge the values because we are not held up by it. We are not controlled by it. Yeah, we are further away from the center. Yeah, so women can challenge the center, the male power. Yeah? Can challenge male power, and we can escape discourse. We can escape our inferior position, according to the feminists. I keep saying us because I am a woman myself. Okay, if we rely on something, or we use our own language, according to Helen Sisu. She wrote The Love of the Medusa, and in this Love of Medusa, she was calling for the creation of a new language, a women's language, called accretive feminine. And this accretive feminine is this is the language that we speak is called phallogocentric, because it's relying on the idea of male power, phallus, and then logocentric is based on language. But she suggests something that can destroy this phallogocentrism or phallogocentric system and create something new for women, a new language for women, and she calls it accretive feminine. So what is feminine writing? Feminine writing is shows women to be less fixed in stable positions between the symbolic than men. Women and their language is more fluid. So what is accretive feminine? Accretive feminine has words that can have many signifieds, yeah? And is mostly found in poetry, according to Helen Sisu. In poetry, a word, for example, can have many connotations. So whatever is written in poetry and that supports women is called accretive feminine writing. Okay. So this is it. It also highlights poetry is close to the unconscious, which for a woman would be repressed female sexual desire or pleasure. And she terms this unconscious for women. For men, it is it, right? For women, it is jouissance. It's called jouissance. Okay, so that is about feminism. So any question about feminism? And any question? Okay, so if you don't have any question on feminism, let's have a look at the limitations of feminism. Limitations of feminism. There are many ongoing issues within feminism. One of them is why does feminism have to be very political? Okay. When you look at the work from the political side, you tend to downplay its literary merit. Okay, so that is one problem with feminism. The other problem is there really any accurate feminine? Okay, some critics say that feminine writing is a myth itself. Okay, so because we all use the same language, cannot escape from language, whether it's male biased towards male or not. Yeah, whether it's biased towards male or not, it cannot escape it entirely because we use it every day. Okay, so there is no such thing as accurate feminine. Other critics say that women in feminist writings, in feminist critical writings of literature, they tend to be biased in the sense that they view women as ideal creatures, that nothing can go wrong with them. No? Women are always good to the feminist critic. Now, one person, this has produced some kind of controversy because in the past, I have read about a writer, the writer of Gone Girl. I think it's called Gone Girl. Okay, wherein which has been adapted into a movie, and it stars a woman. I mean, it stars Ben Affleck, but it has a woman character who is angry with her husband because he's supposed to be he's supposed to have an affair with another woman, and she decides to frame her husband by simply disappearing. And then when she could not be found in her house, everyone started to suspect that her husband had killed her. So during her disappearance, she managed to go back to the home of a former admirer and seeks refuge there and gets his food and so on, sustains herself from the protection that he provides, and then kills him after she decides to go back to her husband. So in the end of the novel, she goes back to her husband, and everybody realizes that her husband did not kill her. But the husband knows what she had done, and so she becomes an evil person in that novel, Gone Girl. So this writer, this novelist, was having some kind of problem with herself because she was afraid of presenting the picture of a bad woman in a novel, because she knows that she's going to be attacked by critics, feminist critics. So so that is one of the problems in feminism, wherein you insist that every woman is right and every man is wrong. Yeah? Where they insist. So another issue is the male feminists. I think you have heard of many people like Prof. Qayyum sometimes, or even Dr. Mahmoud, right? They call themselves feminist critics. Yeah, because they are males. Even though they are males, they say that they support feminism. But according to writers, critics like Maggie Hum, this cannot be, because how do you know that this man support feminism? Maybe in the vicinity of their own home, they become very dominating, and they control their wife, for example. So for them, like Tori Moy also, a man cannot completely become feminist because they are not women. They don't know how women, what challenges women have to face. When they say that they are male critics, female feminist critics, also they are masculine in on the one cultural and intellectual space women have created for themselves. So this is, according to Turmoil, feminism is an elite club. It's not for everyone, but some males are insisting that they are feminists. So lastly, in today's world, young women in the West, sometimes they don't like the idea of feminism because they see them as being very, what do you call it, disruptive. You know, they see women who go on marches, right? Who fight for their voices to be heard, or who do things that are very disruptive in society. They say that they are not part of this women. That they don't behave like that, that they want to behave in ways that are more acceptable by society standard. So these are some of the problems with feminism. Lastly, I would like to show you an example of a poem which is called "To My Coy Lady," to my coy mistress. Okay, sorry, to my coy mistress by what do you call that? One of the poets, Andrew Marvell. By Andrew Marvell. And this simply shows that a man, had we but well enough. I recited this because I found the poem to be very nice, you know. I like the poem very much in the way that I like the way it sounds. But if you look at the contents, it's about a man trying to persuade a lady to have sex with him. Okay, so he uses very beautiful similes, metaphors, like he down by the Indian Ganges side of Humber would I complain, I by the tide of Humber. Humber is it's a river in Wales. So he's saying that they are too far apart, no? They need to be together, that he's in love with her. My vegetable love should grow faster than empires and more slow. Okay, so he's saying that his love is growing for her slowly, but time, for example, does not allow it to grow slowly. He cannot wait for his love to grow a lot before he what do you call that, get it on with her, you know. Yeah, because he says here, 200 to adore each breast, but 30,000 to the rest. It's pointing out how many years that will take him to admire parts of the lady's body. So he's saying that this love cannot be consummated in the near future because it will take many, many years to express his love for her. And then he says that he cannot wait because if he waits, she will die and her body will be eaten by worms. She also cannot wait. That so it is using very crude imageries. Is saying that she will die and be eaten by worms if she does not allow him to sleep with her. Yeah. So it is very crude in that sense, and up to the end of the poem, we don't hear from the women; we hear only from the men. And this is a poem that feminists would love to challenge and would love to attack in a way, because the man here, the male lover is obviously someone who is preoccupied with pleasure, bodily pleasure, and not concerned with the woman's feelings. And the woman, according to the feminist, is someone who is very powerful. Also, her power stems from the fact that she doesn't give in to him, and then she stays quiet. Even though she stays quiet, she has power over him because he goes on and on and on and on trying to persuade her, and she never says anything back. Okay, she doesn't really care about what he thinks or how he feels and so on. So that is giving power to her, you know, in a sense. So So she is also somebody who's clever. So he has to use a lot of imageries, a lot of things to impress her. You know, he has to use very difficult illusions and so on. So yeah. So this is why the poem is very interesting for feminists, and feminism can also be about the life of examining the life of a woman writer. They can say that she is somebody who was oppressed in society, and her husband, for example, had forbidden her from writing, such as what happened to Mary Shelley. But her husband did not prohibit her from writing. It's just that he didn't pay attention to his children. So Percy Shelley's children kept dying one by one, and he didn't take them to any hospital because he was a very negligent father. He didn't care for his family that much. So this is the end of limitations of that feminism. And then, of course, we have that Islamic perspective of feminism, wherein I took this from a book written by Zinat Kausar. Kausar mentioned that women and men are the same in God's eyes. That hidayah is given equally to men and women. And okay, so we should rely on the Quran and the Sunnah for every question that we may have, even though they may not be about women's rights and men's rights. But we should be referring to the Quran and Sunnah for any problems that we have. And okay, so Islam offers women's rights for education and participation in social structure, never against women's rights. So there is technically no need for feminism. But because I believe that because religion is sometimes mixed up with culture, that we need to remind people that Islam is also supportive of women's rights. That sometimes something that is oppressive in our culture with regards to women's rights may stem from our culture rather than our religion. So that is one of the of the explanations for the the feminist response to feminism. So anyone here has any question so far? Have any question about feminism? So it can be, if you look at the work of literature, it can be that you want to attack it from the feminist point of view, or you say that it supports feminism. Okay, still digesting. Sharon is the only male here, right? Okay, perhaps one more, right? One more. I know that there's one more. That's the thing. Yeah. So, anyone wants to ask anything? Just clear this out. Okay. Yeah, I know. Faris know. That's why I said you're not the only male here. That's Faris know. Okay. Has left the meeting already. Okay. I don't know what's happening with him. We just saw him. He's following us. He's leaving the meeting. Oh, okay.
Doctor. Could you explain again about the male feminist?
About the male feminist?
Yeah, what is it about actually in brief?
Yeah, feminists, they don't like males. Some feminists don't like males. So not all, but some. Actually, they feel that especially males who say that they are supportive of feminism, they argue that how do women really know that these males are supportive of feminism? They could be saying that they are supportive of them, of feminists, of women's rights, and so on. But when they join their families, for example, in the privacy of their own homes, they may assume very male what do you call that? Very male centric positions. Like for example, they don't want to cook. They leave their cooking to their wives. They don't want to take care of the babies. You know, those things are not really supportive of feminism, right? Or female or women's rights. So the feminists, they get very possessive about their theory. Yeah, they say that that's for females, but we can also argue that some, if they are supportive of women's power, okay, and women's position in the government, for example, like you know, in history we've had female prime ministers like Margaret Thatcher, and even right now Angela Merkel. Huh? So have these females been supportive of women's rights? Have Margaret Thatcher supported women's rights? Okay, so there is the argument that even though they are females, that it doesn't mean that they will be supportive of women's rights, right? Queen Victoria, for example, she believed that during her time, she doesn't believe in the idea that women have to work. To Queen Victoria, women's job is at home, you know, doing household work. Even though she was the queen, she could have commanded more rights to be given to women, but she didn't. It was very controversial. I mean, she wasn't controversial, but she's more conservative. I'm sorry, she's very conservative. So you could argue that it's not right to take a look at one's gender and say that one gender shows one support or maybe shows one's leaning towards a certain gender. You know what I'm saying? It's, being a female doesn't mean that you are a feminist. Being a male doesn't mean that you are a masculinist or believe in male power. Things like that. You can argue, but you can also. These feminists are saying that males cannot be feminists, cannot be supportive of women's rights, because feminism is for women only. Yeah. So it's an argument there. And anyone, do you understand? Do you understand? Yeah. Anyone has any question so far?
Doctor, about humanist feminism, is there, because humanist feminism, they recognize that there are differences between the genders, whether they be, as you said, biological, psychological, whichever aspect, but they recognize that there are inherent differences between the genders. Okay, in that regard, is there a consensus about how much different they are among the humanist feminists? Because, okay, like, suppose the humanist feminists, right, they recognize, okay, women may be biologically wired this way, and men may be biologically wired this way. Do they then take it a step further? Do they then say, therefore, because they are wired differently, they are suitable for different things, and therefore have different roles, and therefore different occupations, different sorts of things? Do they ascribe to that sort of thing?
Yeah, in a way, they are agreeing to that. If they say that, we are wired differently, right? We're created differently by God, or by whosoever creates us. Then they are saying that we have different jobs, different kind of like different interests and different abilities and so on. But they are saying that what they are saying is that people who are working at home is no more. It is not inferior to those that work outside of home. So same thing saying that this is just another. This is housewives are equally as important as their husbands and so on. So that's what they're saying. We are all useful members of society in that sense.
Doctor, I'm trying to think of, like, there are movements today around the world. You have things, of course, to our Muslim eyes, they would be incomprehensible. they'd be unacceptable. But outside of a religious context, just talking about this, we have movements like where they celebrate the sexual liberation of women. Let's say you have these slut walks, they call it, where they try to reclaim once formerly derogatory remarks, words like bitch or slut or these sorts of things, where there are certain feminist camps, they try to reclaim these words as their own and try to make it not into such a bad word anymore. That's one. Other stuff like free the nipple movement, where they argue because men are allowed to walk around with their shirts without their shirts on the beach, therefore shouldn't women be allowed to be the same? This kind of thinking, I'd like to ask you, would this be more in line with the post-structuralist feminist view, since they view everything's a social construct, gender is fluid, there's no such thing as men or woman, it's all just in your head? So would this be more into that camp?
Yeah, I think it's that they could be post-structuralists in their approach to the genders.
So if there are feminists who accept transgenders, issues of transgenders and that sort of thing also, where gender is now instead gender and sexuality or sexual orientation, from anywhere from homosexuality to heterosexuality, instead of a binary opposition thing, it's all fluid, it's all up to you. It's these are all just labels. Would this be a post-structuralist view of things?
Yeah, it could be. They could be taking a post-structuralist view of gender if they accept transgenderism. But even when we look at the term LGBT, okay, L stands for lesbian, gay, B bisexual, T and transgender, right? But even within this LGBT movement, we tend to think of them as a group. But even within the same movement, there are members who disagree with the concept of transgenderism, for example. There are gays who disagree that men could transform their appearance to become women.
Right.
There are also gays who disagree with the idea of bisexualism. And bisexualists who say that they are not gay, they don't understand gay or lesbianism because they feel that love is whom you fall in love with is no concern of it has nothing to do with your sex.
Right. So you could have subgroups within the subgroups.
Discourse. This is why we use the term discourse. Discourse means to talk and to talk and write about a subject. And in that discourse, you can write about in support of. You can challenge certain ideas. You can write to support certain ideas and so on. So there are so many discourses on this topic. Yeah, we cannot say that. When these people
can't generalize
transgenderism, they are post-structuralist and all that. It's very hard to
I see.
categorize them.
Okay. So, Doctor, on a language level then, right? I was also curious. On a language level, when we have words like, that we differentiate, between the male and female form for a lot of occupations. You have actor, man, actress, woman. Or you have steward, man, stewardess, woman. But the default position, the default state of that word, like actor is the general default term. If you want to specify it's woman, then you'd have to use actress. But the default position is that it's a male. It's the male form. So in this case, right, between those two camps we were talking about, the post-structuralists and the humanists, which one would support, which one would oppose this sort of thing, this sort of difference in language? Or do feminists think, no, we shouldn't differentiate, one actor doesn't matter, boy or girl, actor lah, don't have to be actress?
Yeah, but the term actor, I heard from somebody, and I know this also from reading, that there is no more term for female actress. There's no actress. There's just actor. Whether you're a female actor or male actor, they're using one term, actor.
Is it the same with waitresses and waiters, or stewardesses and stewards?
is it the same with what? What?
Is it the same with other terms like waiters and waitresses or stewards and stewardesses?
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I heard that there is only one term for actor. It is. You can find out whether there is the term stewardess, for example, is still being used or not. Or the term waitress is still being used. Yeah, but the thing is, right now they're only using actor, one term. That I know for sure. So it could be on the way out. The terms like waitress and what we call that, waitress and stewardess. These terms could be on the way out because the terms are just telling us what the job is, right? It's not supposed to tell us what what is the gender of the person who's working, whose work is being described now.
I see.
So, yeah.
Doctor, then one last one about words as well. Are there any different feminist views about words that are traditionally that have that end with man, like businessman, chairman, or are all feminists in general opposed to that sort of thing?
Yeah, there are people. I've heard of the term spokesman, or what do you call that? Mostly spokesman or chairman are being used, but right now they're also using, some people who are more politically correct than others, they are using chairperson and what do you call that, spokesperson and so on. So these terms are being, if you write in an academic paper using spokesman or chairman, they would say, okay, change these terms into something more neutral like spokesperson or chairperson, because this is gender bias. They cannot accept those terms.
So all gender bias completely. Then how about when, you know how in traditional writing they used to personify inanimate objects, like ships would be considered she. You know, the Titanic, she was a massive ship. Or sometimes when they personify whole countries, America, land of the free, she is Lady Liberty, or that sort of thing. Would that also be gender bias?
No, I think that one says because yeah, I think it's just the term that some languages have male and female nouns. So, you know, motherland says, or the term is being used. Mother nature is being used. Feminists even support the idea of mother nature because they believe that women are closer to nature than men.
I see. Yeah. Then those feminists who support the idea of a motherland, would they also accept the idea of a fatherland?
It could be. I think both terms have been used, motherland, fatherland, right? You've heard of the terms, both terms in use.
Yeah, different languages.
You don't say father nature, you say mother nature.
Right.
So, mother nature is something that women feminists take pride in because they feel that their strength is drawn from nature.
I see.
Women,
so those, sorry.
Actually, even when they are trying to be post-structuralists, when they try to destroy the binary oppositions like masculine versus feminine, right? Like what Helen Sisu is doing, they are supportive of the binary because Helen Sisu, for example, she says that women is closer to nature, and therefore, in poems, for example, that describe about nature, they are describing about women also. But she herself is a post-structuralist who wants to challenge these binary oppositions. So,
that's a bit.
Yeah. So
and they only keep what they like.
Themselves in a way, yes.
I see. Okay. That's all right. So they would be so Mother Nature they would like. How about Father Time? Would they like that?
Yeah, it could be. It could be like
that. Say, no, you don't get to have Father Time, but Mother Nature is ours. It's okay. Is that something they would say? Or they would also accept, okay, since nature can be mom, time can be dad. Would they accept that? Or would they say, oh, flat out, nope, cannot?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it depends on people again. It's a discourse. It's you can have different opinions, right? Yeah, I cannot say that the same opinions holds true for everyone. Okay. Anyone wants to say anything? Khadija, Ahmad, Fuad, do you want to say anything? No. Anyone else? My battery is running out. Yeah. I have to connect this to the power. Anyone wants to say anything? I just have to...
We covered a lot today. Still digesting, actually.
Okay, so
I want to know your opinion, Doctor, about, okay, feminists have a goal of trying to emphasize or put forward female writers and female literature in opposition to the long male-dominated tradition of literature that's been there for the longest time. Okay, then I had a thought. Then, by outwardly specifically labeling yourself with a label, okay, this is female literature, in the same way that if it was any other aspect, right? Let's say it's not about gender. If you say, this is Malay literature, or this is post-colonial literature, by doing that, by applying that label, you are sort of removing yourself from the mainstream. You make yourself as a niche, and in that sense, only people who are drawn to that sort of thing in the first place would be drawn to it, and it wouldn't be part of the mainstream. But I'm not so sure how to. I was thinking about this. What is your opinion on that sort of thing? When you create a niche for yourself, the feminists want to create a safe space for themselves. Yes, that's good. But then in that act, at the same time, would they, by by making that space exclusive only for themselves, they take themselves away from the mainstream and into a niche group on the fringe? Would that not just reinforce the cycle of being marginalized? I'm not so sure what to think about that. Do you have anything?
People do that when they try to group themselves. Critics, for example, they try to group the works of literatures. Mostly writers don't do that. It's just a critic who are studying this work. They try to group the literary works for study purposes, right? When you want to compare one to the other, tend to group them. But writers normally, I don't think they do that because they want to be read by many people. So they don't want to say that this is African literature or Malaysian literature. This is just a work of literature that anyone can read.
Right.
Yeah. But when you read the words from literature, it's about life, and life is about thinking with or explaining a certain culture, right? So it's easy to group a work under certain labels.
I see. So that's a later on thing.
Yeah. So anyone here has any question? Nur, Amira, Amali, do you have any question? Nur, Alia, anyone? Faris, no? No? I wonder.
I have a question actually.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the écriture feminine, the feminine style of writing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I Google about it, and it says that one of the feminine style of writing examples are the fillers, the gaps, the puns. So I'm curious whether you could say that euphemism is part of écriture feminine. Do you think so? What do you think about that?
I don't really understand the question.
Because when it comes to the creature feminine, the feminine style of writing, it's very, how to say, vague. Because how do you categorize a certain style of writing as feminine and as masculine? So I Google and it says that the examples are the gaps, the silence, the puns. And I'm guessing that if in the sense of the examples given, the écriture feminine is, how to say, how women act in the romantic era. It's more polite. If you want to talk bad about someone, they just like making it double meaning, I'm guessing. That's what I get from the example. That's why I'm trying to understand the creature feminine, the feminine style of writing. So I'm just wondering if we can consider euphemism as a creature feminine.
Okay. Yeah. Um, Euphemism is to substitute one word with another because the word has negative connotation. We want to have more positive connotations for it, and I think that um, yeah, that is very. You're asking a very philosophical question because euphemism is substituting one word for another, right? Um, you want to place a very positive word in place. You want to place a positive word in the place of a very negative word, but they mean the same thing. Feminine archetype is about using a word, and then the word has many meanings, many signifies. It could be negative, it could be positive. So a good example, I mean, one that can really solve this question that you give is to give me an example of what you mean, what do you mean by that? Like, for example, janda baik. Okay, no, janda berhias, right? If you say that janda berhias is, I don't know, it has a negative term, isn't it? A negative connotation. It means like somebody who had gotten divorced and is still very attractive for men, right? Okay, so gender berhias. It has a negative connotation, right? In our society. But it could mean also, could it be positive? Can it convey
I mean, it depends on the people's perspective. If you see gender based means even though you don't have a husband but you're doing fine, it seems positive.
okay. So it can be that also. It doesn't mean that you have to be old and derelict, right? When you use the term gender, it can be somebody who is very positive. I think it says something about society. If society wants to use a term, if you want to change a term that could be neutral into something positive, you can do that. And you can change also a neutral term into something negative. You can do that also, like killing. We describe Indians as being killing, and killing that has a very negative connotation. But killing is just a place, a name of a place. So you can do that for gender, words like gender Brihias, for example. You can turn it into very positive term, right? It means that she is Brihias, somebody who has power, somebody who is very well cultured, right? Could be that also. So it has to be agreed upon by society. Even we can use male language, because I don't think we can escape it entirely. Even Helen Sistu said that when we use language, a feminine archetype is only exists in poetry, not in novels. He says that it can exist in poetry because words like rose, for example, can mean many things. So that is what she wants to do. She wants the words in to express women, but they can mean many things. Women escape language in that sense in poetry. But in real life, which is the language of novels, it's very difficult to do this because words are supposed to represent one thing. Because novels are supposed to be about real life, not it's not poetic. So it has to be, the real life has to change. The language that you use in real life has to change to support women's rights, to support to give very positive connotation, like gender behaviors. We are supposed to use it in very positive ways rather than in negative ones, right?
So, doctor, this repurposing of words, as you say, would this be an act of that écriture?
Um,
by deconstructing it from its connotations, and now it's fluid, it can mean a lot of things, and then society, us the agents, we put the meaning we want onto it, in this case a positive meaning.
yeah. But obviously, the akita, feminine akita, is something that it's not like what Helen Sisto is saying. It's our akita. We are writing our akita because Malay is not inside this feminine akita, right? Malay language is Malay akita, akita Malay, Malays, akita Malays. So if you want to create a language that is positive for women, you can just use all those negative terms that are given to women, like gender bias, you can make it into a positive term. Okay, like you can write for in support of women who are widowed, who are divorcees, right? Why not? Why demonize them? Say that gender bias represents power. She represents that she is bias, somebody who is who takes care of herself, in a way. Yeah, that is speaking on a philosophical level, because it goes more. It's more than a study of literature. It's a study of society as well. It can change the way we talk, right? Yeah. Pengurusi, for example. Why do we have this mentality that it's a man? But Malay, believe me, is one of the language that is less male-centric than other languages. Because we have pengurusi, because we don't have lelaki pengurusi, right? We don't have the chairman, we just have pengurusi.
Yeah. The pronouns aren't gendered, that's for one. Everybody's dear.
Yeah. So our language is actually very, very flexible, not than other languages. So anyone wants to say anything else? You can even write an article on this, It's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, can write an article, newspaper article, and then publish it. How to
Doctor,
deconstruct our language.
Doctor,
Yeah.
we don't have the word for pengerusi, but when we want to address someone, we call her, for example, Tuan Pengerusi or Tuan Pengerusi, something like that.
So why do we have that? Don't just you have that. I think it's more like the polite side of Malaysian society that is. Yeah, but when you say Tuan Pengurusi, you're saying that Tuan Pengurusi could be Tuan or Tuan, right? Yeah, it's not like chairman. Chairman is like the term that you use for every chairman. So rarely would they use chairwoman, but we Tuan Pengurusi, Puan Pengurusi, right? In the way, because you're addressing the person's gender and saying that, okay, you can be Pengurusi as well. So, anyone wants to say anything?
Then, Doctor, based on that same principle we were talking before, the idea of gender berhias or gender by words that at some points can be considered derogatory or bad, we take them and then we scrub them of their meaning and apply new meanings ourselves, and we call that Malay. If we call that Malay écriture, then in the English écriture, it could be very well those things that some of the feminist camps have been trying to do, where they reclaim words like bitch, excuse me, but certain words like this, where they say the longest held connotation is a bitch is a girl or a woman who is rude or acts on impulse or things like that. But the feminist camp is trying to scrub it away and say, no, this is the mark of an independent woman who is not chained, or that one is one. Or like sexual promiscuity with the word slut. Then that would be the écriture as well, right? If we were to say,
I mean, you were explaining very fast just now. So
I'm sorry. The way we
actually when you say Akita Malays. Malays is French for Malay. So
yeah.
Malays. Okay. Yeah, okay. What is it, Saranizal? You wanted to say?
If following from your example, with the same principle with the gender berhias, where we take one bad word and then we make it good, we put a good spin on it, and then we accept that as its meaning. If that we can call as écriture, in this case it's Malay écriture, then in English écriture, wouldn't we apply the same thing and say, when some of the feminists, they claim, okay, we will retake a word like bitch and make it good. Like now, in current slang among the kids,
Mm.
when you say, "Oh, she's a bad bitch," that's good. It's a that's something. That's an act of taking a word that was formerly not so good, but they've turned it into not just neutral, but it's become an act of praise.
Yeah.
That is one word with bitch. Another word, what with slut, they refer to it as a lessening of the rigid morals or sexual morality imposed from way before. So I'm wondering, when they do that, are those also instances? Can we consider those instances of English anglais écriture? They would then by by
Oh.
that characteristic, wouldn't they?
Yeah. I think in when they do that, they are creating new. They're breaking away from the structure, the center, right? They are creating another center, hopefully, but it's still this world is still dominated by a gender bias. It's still a gender bias world, but language itself is being reformulated all the time. And yeah, I know that some negative words previously, like fat, for example, is could be
Oh
positive,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if, creating a language is not something that happens overnight. It takes a long time. So maybe one word that could be negative in the that is negative in the past could be positive now, and sometimes words that are positive in the past could be negative as well in the future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's just always something evolving, and therefore to say that a word will be forever, a language could be created that is ideal, that supports women, is very idealistic, because you don't know what direction a word will take in the future. It could turn into something negative, or it could turn to something positive. But it's a good thing if we have terms like fat and becoming very positive, you know,
Yeah,
body
they spell it
shaming and all
differently too,
that.
I believe.
Yeah. Now,
THAT, yeah.
yeah, in the past maybe it's okay to say that somebody that you are big or rounded and fat and so on. But right now we have the word body shaming. So it's always language is something that is evolves. It's very difficult to say to pin it into a position, right? Yeah. So anyone wants to say, because it's already 2:39. So
Sorry, everyone.
okay, so bye bye until next week. Okay, us. If anyone wants to say, maybe on WhatsApp. Yeah, well, this has been a very interesting talk. A very interesting conversation right now. Just now, yeah, we had a very interesting conversation, and thank you for attending this class. Okay,
Thank you,
so
Doctor.
okay, I hope you understood what things we have studied just now, and do have a look at the videos that I will post. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Doctor.
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 Thank you, doctor.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Doctor.
doctor.